What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Riding the Wave with your host, Abe.
MJ in your house, y'all better recognize.
And today we're diving into a different pair of shoes and walk of life with this gentleman here, and we're gonna allow him to introduce himself.
My name is Fedna Pierre-Louis. I am married, doing youth ministry in the Lincoln Heights area, coaching at the local high school, and happy to be here.
Thank you for being a guest on our podcast, our platform. Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're grateful for you and for willing to share your testimony. And that's what's going to be. It's going to be Fedna's testimony. So let's dive right in. And what is it going to be?
Well, let's start off with how's your current brother?
I'm doing great. Life is awesome. Got two awesome boys at home, and I'm loving life right now.
How about you, bro?
The current is great. The wave is getting bigger. Thanks to all you guys. I appreciate all the followers, the subscribers. Continue to follow, subscribe. Get your people to follow, subscribe. We are grateful for you guys. Thank you so much. So I'm feeling amazing right now. How about yourself, MJ?
I'm super excited. Excuse my raspy voice. Dodgers won the World Series, so I got a little bit too excited, so excuse the voice. But
it's understandable.
But let's dive into today's topic, and the first thing I want to ask is Fedna. Never heard that name. Sounds like a brand of some sort. So can you give us a little backstory of where that name comes from?
Indeed. So my name is actually Fernand.
Okay.
And so it's Haitian, and kind of losing my dad at an early age, we didn't really learn the Haitian-Creole language. And so my mom is white, so my mom basically thought that you pronounce Fernand like Fedna in Haitian-Creole. So she was like, I want you to have some like Haitian background or understanding of just your heritage. So all my life, I spelled my name Fernand, but everyone called me Fedna. And years later, I had a friend from St. Lucia. I was about 27, and we were walking one day, and he was saying my name, Fernand. He was like, Fernand. He was saying it with like the Haitian or the Creole kind of. And I was like, wait, say that again? And it sounded semi-similar to Fedna. And so I'm like, wait, dude, my mom has always told me my name was Fedna, and she's just been mispronouncing.
Mispronouncing your name the whole time.
So she just basically she butchers everybody's name. But it's kind of the background of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
So everyone calls me Fedna. So
it's stuck, and the rest was history. Yeah, that's cool. Good.
All right, man. So let's talk about where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and then about junior high school, I moved to a city called Brockton, Massachusetts.
Okay. And what was just give us a little backstory. What was the relationship like with your family, your mom and dad, and so forth?
Yeah. So I was raised, mom raised 7 of us by herself. When I was 1, my dad was murdered in a shooting. And we kind of grew up no one really had dads in the neighborhood, right? So it just was a part of our life. We grew up without him. And then after my dad, my mom had 4 other children. So she has 4 with my dad, and then 3 other children actually with other guys who weren't really in the picture either. So we just kind of typical family growing up in the inner city, trying to make ends meet. Mom was on welfare, still is, right, as government housing, all that good stuff.
All right. It sounds like the 80s were the same. My mom had 7 kids as well, so it seems like 80s they were putting in work. Really good.
Playing no games.
Right? Exactly. Are you close with your siblings? Like, you guys really keep in close contact, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. Like some siblings I'm super close with. There's 4 girls, 3 boys. I'm like dead center, boy, girl, all the way down. And so we love each other. But I mean, I wouldn't say we're like the closest of relationship. We're all just trying to live and do good things, I guess. So yeah, we love each other, and when we're around, we laugh and like any family. But yeah, they aren't necessarily the deepest connections or relationships with each other.
And do you think that? Well, let's backtrack real quick,
Yeah.
because we talked. You just said murder. Your dad was murdered, so I think we skipped that.
Yeah.
Can you, the best you can, and can you explain a little bit more in depth as far as what happened? I know there's an interesting backstory that you mentioned to us off camera.
Yeah, so basically, my dad was a Haitian immigrant, got his first, I think he got his citizenship through marriage to my mom, growing up in the 80s, raising kids in the 80s. And so, yeah, I was a little over one. The kind of story that I was told is that my dad basically which was true, took a shift over for his friend. So he had a friend that basically kind of, hey man, cover for me, I got you, something like that. So he took this shift to make extra money. Basically was driving around. Someone kind of flagged him down for a ride. Then they went to go rob him. He didn't want to give up the money and heroically kind of took a bunch of bullets for the family. So that was kind of the story in it, like that I was told growing up. So for me, it was like, okay, my dad was cool at least. Like he kind of went out for the family, all that good stuff. And then when I was about 27, me and my wife were talking on Skype. Was it Skype back then? And we were just having a conversation. We were dating, talking about marriage. And so she was like, have you ever really looked into your father's death? Because it's just some of it the story doesn't make sense, right? We were just talking through details. And basically, we started Googling. We went down that Google kind of rabbit hole. And we basically uncovered all this kind of information about like, he was actually a drug runner for like a gang or a local cartel. Something went wrong and like four to five cab drivers all died or like violently murdered within like a seven day time period. And so it kind of made like at least news in the state, and it was a big deal with like the mayor getting involved and all kinds of things. So yeah, it was like as a 27-year-old kind of realizing, oh, my dad wasn't the saint that I thought he was. And that's basically that story.
And that's interesting, man, because Aiden and I, we have kind of similar story as far as our parents not fully telling us the truth of certain things that happen in our life, parts of our lives. Same thing. When my dad passed away, when I was one as well, and the story went that he had a heart attack in his sleep. That he went in the couch, he took some medication, and that's how he passed away, heart attack in his sleep. So my whole life, that's how I thought that he passed away, and it wasn't until like I was in my mid-20s or early 20s actually, where one of my cousins told me what happened. We're at a party, and I'm drinking at the time, and he just starts, like, hey man, I'm sorry about, how your dad went out. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And he was like, no one's ever told you? I was like, no, no. And he was like, yeah, man, your dad, he killed himself. And I was like, what? Yeah. Like, what? And I confronted my mom about it. Were you, when you found all this stuff out, like, were you disappointed in your mom, or did you feel any type of way with your mom? Yeah,
I mean, it definitely, just made me, it hurt, right? Because it's like, oh, like, this wasn't true. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I did confront my mom about it. Like, hey, I have all this information, like court case, all kinds of stuff. Even like the guy who originally kind of got convicted for killing him ended up like beating the case later. He kind of got released through like a mistrial type thing. And so for me, I brought like all this information to her, like, hey, like I need to know the truth, right? And so she kind of claimed to not know what was going on. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, nah, there's still things.
But why do you think she plays that, even all the way until now? Like, why do you think she plays that part?
I would imagine as kids, it was so we didn't we probably weren't ready for the information. And I think now it's like, oh, maybe she's trying to protect maybe his legacy or I don't know. It's like, it's easier for us to not know. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I do know, like, as a 42-year-old man now, like, I just want to know the truth. Like, I've already forgiven him for just making those decisions. I imagine, he was kind of struggling to make ends meet. He's like, hey, I'm gonna make all this money, look out for my family. My older sister says that we had a lot of nice things. She's a little older than me. So for me, it's like, I get it. I understand the draw to be a part of that life. But for me now, I've forgiven him. Nothing's gonna change kind of how I feel about him, or even my mom at this point, 'cause she did the best with what she could. But it's just like knowing the truth would really help. I don't know, help me sleep a little better, I would say.
Did all those siblings have the same story that you did, or like she told the same story to all of you guys, and you guys found out at the same time, or do they still not know?
Yeah, so I basically was the first one, right? And so like I found all this information out.
And then and how did you find all this information out? Because didn't you say something about a wedding or something like that, and that's what kind of led you?
Yeah, so me and my wife were, I know we're going to get into this later. I was in the Army. Me and my wife I was in Afghanistan at the time. We were like video chatting on Skype, basically, so we can, that's how we kept in contact. And so we're like, at this point, we're planning our wedding. And it's like, hey, we need to get a picture of your dad. And I'm like, there ain't no pictures of my dad. And we wanted to kind of have like a memorial table type thing with my dad and my wife's dad, who she also lost as a kid. And so we're like, hey, let's see if we could find his driver's license or maybe a picture in the newspapers. And so that's what kind of got us Googling.
And you end up finding a mugshot. We'll use that. We'll use that.
But yeah, there wasn't really
nothing. That's crazy.
There was no actual pictures. There was like, there was a picture of my mom, like maybe in the courtroom in one of the newspaper articles, kind of crying or whatever. And then there was like I want to say it was some kind of march or like peace something that they did that was like in the newspaper, but that was about it as far as pictures and stuff go.
And they never you never went to like the police station around where you used to live and like gave them your your dad's information. They couldn't pull up records of him. He has to have something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I never done that, man, because at this point I'm like, I was living across the country or in another state. I know my older sister, because we've all been trying to find, ever since I found all the information, I kind of, hey, I need to talk to you guys, especially like my older sister. I'm like, hey, did you know all this? She was like, no, she didn't know. She was really shocked too, but then she was kind of like, I do remember like having like a fur coat when I was a kid. Like she and my older brother were like in like private school, like private elementary school.
So so you guys had like a big age gap then, right?
Yeah, so she's about like 6 years older than me. My older brother is 5, and then my older sister is like 4.
Okay.
So it's like, and then they kind of waited a couple years or so for me. It's kind of like the age. So she was like 6 or 7 at the time. So she remembers. She actually has like, she can kind of remember certain things from that time. Yeah, me and my second older sister, we kind of don't. It's like everything's foggy for us.
Yeah. Yeah, because honestly, man, like it's been so long, but like I don't think I have forgiven him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To be honest, like I used to go to his gravesite, and now I don't go no more. Yeah. Because I just, not that I hold a grudge. I don't think that's it. I feel like I lost respect.
Yeah.
For him to take his own life. Yeah. Knowing he had 3 kids, a wife. I get it. I know he was going through something, obviously, for him to do what he did. But I still. So when you said you've forgiven him, that's why I'm like, man, like what?
I gotta put it out. I mean, because I've never lost I have both. I've been blessed to have both.
Thanks
my
for rubbing
parents.
it in, bro.
No,
Thanks
not
for rubbing
you.
it in.
I'm just saying, like,
This
no,
guy.
right? Like, look at this guy. That's both parents.
Had to have a good marriage.
No, but for you guys losing your fathers, if you had the opportunity to say something to them, what would it be?
That's a good question.
Dang.
That's a good.
We can go back to that.
No. I mean, that's a good question.
I mean, it's a hard question because I would want some answers. Like, why did you choose?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be just one answer, like one
yeah,
question.
right.
You know, like I don't.
Because if for me, if it was like, it was some magical genie was like, hey, you got one question to ask him, I'm probably just gonna ask him something more in the positive end. Like I'm okay not knowing if it's just the one thing, but if it's multiple kind of questions to say, like what caused you to do what you did, and was it worth it in a sense, right? Was the trade-off worth it? And I would imagine, I think this is where the forgiveness piece that's coming for me. It's like I realize like I don't think he was like doing those things like screw my kids, right? Because my mom says he was a good dude to her, and my older sister remembers him being a good dude. I imagine he was poor and broke, and was like, hey, I want to have more for my kids. He chose the wrong way about going about that, but like his for me, his heart behind that was that. And so I think that's where, and then forgiveness, I've kind of learned just after giving my life to Jesus, like forgiveness is more for me than it is like them, like something for them. For me, it's more or less like this ain't that one thing kind of keeping me kind of balled up. So yeah, that's a long way of answering that. That's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, I guess honestly, I would just ask him why. Like, why, Dad?
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to take your own life knowing that you had so much love? Like, people would have done anything to be in your situation where you come home and you have, daddy, like, who? And why would you want to just toss that away?
Yeah.
So that would be my basic one. Just why did you do it? Why did you leave us?
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be it.
So,
That's deep, man.
All right. So what was it like, growing up without a dad?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's harder for me now as a 42-year-old dude, probably after I hit about 30 and I started really thinking about like life and my future and just those things, and maybe started accomplishing things like it got hard then. But growing up, no one had a dad in the neighborhood, right? There was like, I was trying to think like there was no dads around. Like there's just no one had a dad. No one.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
If they did have a dad, he lived in another neighborhood, and they would go see him a parent. But there was never like a dad walking their kid to the corner store to get a soda or a nice pop or something. So it was normal, right? It was like, no, right, this is just how it is for us or people like us that grew up in the community we grew up in, right? But then as obviously junior high and high school start to roll around, and you maybe start to see some of those father figures, it's like you always have a longing for the good job, proud of you, the fatherly advice that you can get from a dad. So I'm a dad now, so I'm like, dang, like there's so much I didn't have that I wish I had, haven't experienced that with my boys now.
Yeah.
all right. And how big? Like, I mean, you guys growing up without a father.
Thanks for rubbing it in again.
I was just going to say last question about that. We're gonna change the subject. But like the impact. How big of an impact do you see you guys being fathers now that it can have on your son or daughter with not having their father present?
Yeah, I mean, it's unimaginable now, right? Like now that I see just how much my sons look to me or come to me for stuff, for me it's like I couldn't even imagine, like just yesterday, my son's school had like a parade, right? Like a costume parade.
Yeah.
And I was there. I got to, luckily my job kind of allows me the flexibility to be there. And I'm there and I'm just chilling and I'm just there. I'm not doing anything. I took a few pictures and I'm just watching him walk around and he has a Deadpool costume. And then like last night, as a family, before we ate dinner, he kind of was doing like a little prayer, and a part of his prayer was like, "Oh, thank you for my dad for coming to my parade today." And for me, it was like I'm just there like. The speakers are loud. I'm actually a little annoyed, because, but it was just like just being there, like, and I couldn't imagine, because I was the kid in the parade who like never had anybody there, so I was always looking back like, dang, ain't nobody here for me, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I couldn't imagine like my kids having to endure fatherlessness, regardless of how amazing their mom is, or how awesome like our church community is. It's unique, the father piece.
No, I agree, man. But also at the same time, like I had a stepdad that was there for a good portion of my life. So technically, I did have a dad, you know. So he kind of installed a lot of good moral values. He struggled with his demons himself, and but yeah, you know, like as you stated, like just I remember he was a butcher, and then I would go to the meat market with him, and I would help him close up the shop, and you know, he would introduce me to all his friends, like, oh, like, you know, that's my boy.
Yeah.
And bro, I'm like 6 years old, and to this day, I'm 37 years old. I still remember that.
Yeah.
And I still remember that feeling that he gave me. So I can't even imagine my son not having none of that, bro. Totally. Like I can't imagine that, and that's why like I'm very passionate when it comes to kids, and like you when we were talking earlier, I don't know if I could have a boy like where he's my boy, knowing that he has kids out there that he's not taking care of.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I could really, not like you said, not to judge him, not to criticize him. It's just like I don't, you know, I just couldn't do it. Like I'd be cool with him. I'd be cool with him, and I would try to talk to him for sure. I would hold him accountable for sure. Yeah. Like, hey man, like these. But as far as like, but if he wants 90 part, then I don't know. How about you? What's your? How do you feel about that?
About
just like,
man, I don't know. It's tough. It's very tough. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't even imagine. You know, I had a father figure. You know, that my whole life, and he taught me the rights and wrong, and was there for me, and also disciplined me. And again, you know, my father had his demons as well, you know. Grew up in the project, so, you know, I learned the street life pretty quick, you know, and not because I lived it, but because I was told like what happens and everything. And, you know, I always kept thinking about if that happened, I don't want to be in that situation, you know. So I kind of learned from it. But me having my two boys, again, yeah, I couldn't imagine how they would be if I wasn't in their life, you know. And the big part is like being able to, the greatest thing for me is being able to see myself in them, you know. And even like my wife and I, we have our sons from a different previous relationship, but it's like learned behavior. It's not necessarily like, oh well, it's blood. Like, no, actually it's like learned behavior, and like what you bring to the table and how you present yourself and all that stuff that are gonna bring your kids up to be great women and men, you know. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I feel for you guys. You know, it's definitely. I'm trying to embrace what you guys. I know I would never know how you guys feel, but trying to get some type of feeling and, you know, a sense of what you guys might have went through. Yeah. You know. Because
I was gonna ask you, or like I asked you earlier, what do you think there's a big difference now as far as being in the 80s to now as far as dads being present?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the crack epidemic and kind of what it does to a community, like I remember, like.
So it affected you in Boston. So in Boston, it was
like the drugs. Like the neighborhood I grew up in is called Dorchester, and it was a cool place to live. Like it wasn't that bad. And then like it was like the late 80s, early 90s. It just like everyone was strung out. Like there was shootings. Like I watched people get shot. Like I lived like dead center of like this long street, and like all the action like happened at this one intersection in front of my apartment building. And so it was
like a war zone.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I like remember this one day, like I lived in the 3rd floor apartment, and I'm sitting on my mom's lap, and we're just looking out the window. And this wasn't like an unusual event. And we were just looking out the window, looking at the clouds, I don't know. And like this car pulls up and like starts like skidding like out of control. This guy hops out of the car, long dreadlocks, and he's just running down the street. He's just running. Some guys hop out another car that like sped up and just start chasing him down the neighborhood, shooting at him. And the dude, yeah, eventually they hit him. The dude falls on the ground. They stand over him, lay him out. They get in their car, sped off. Eventually somebody calls the police. Police come. And so it was just like, that was like the height of, and that wasn't like an unusual sight, right? These situations. And I am in junior high school, like seeing this kind of stuff, right? Like one of our things we would do is after the shootings, we would go outside and would collect sadly, they're like shell cases to see, oh, this was a 45, oh, this was a 9, this was a 32, right? This is like, that was like a, you know, like, that was like these little kids, like we understood that piece of it. Yes, it was just mad, and like the neighborhood was crazy, and so it's like, yeah, you see kind of like there not being a dads around, and then I don't know, in the last 15 years, 20 years or so, I feel like the stigma around like it being okay for you not to be involved in your kids has kind of been broken some, or at least it's like it's at least frowned upon, looked down upon to a certain aspect. And so like as we talked about, like, yeah, I don't know that I could be close friends with somebody who was just unwilling to pursue their kids at the very least. And so yeah, I do think fathers are more like, I think we understand a lot more, society understands a lot more as to like what it means to not have one of their parents in the household. I think especially the dad. So I think like it's less common now from my observations or just the context in which I operate. But it's still a major problem.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's unfortunate that at that age it's the norm.
Yeah.
You hear gunshots, it's the norm. You know what I mean? Like, oh, damn, somebody just got shot. Like that's really like your response. You know, like, oh, who got smoked? You know. And yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's still unfortunate. I'm sure there's areas that are still going through that today. You know, and like we pray is that, you know, hopefully everything improves and, you know, we get away from that. You know, because a lot of lives being lost, especially kids. You know.
And how did all that stuff affect you growing up? Like as a kid, like seeing all that violence, all that gun violence, like how did that affect you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I understand now. As a kid, it's just like, this is what it is, right? Like people get smoked, and some people are like, yeah, it's just it's not normal though, right? I think the idea of like, oh, it was normal for us to see this. Like I always talk to people, I'm like, nah, it's not normal for kids to see somebody get their head blown off, right? Like it's
I
not.
know, I can't imagine our kids seeing something like that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I can't even imagine as an adult
Yeah.
seeing someone get murdered.
It would mess you up. Like right now, if we walk outside and we see someone get their head splattered open, we would be messed up for a little while. At least, right? Like, so imagine as a kid, you kind of, you just kind of like sear those parts of your brain.
Like, do you feel like it's like suppressed memories? Like we just store it?
Yeah, you compartment.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
I'm not that smart. Nah, but so you put it all in a box. You pack that away.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try either.
Compartmentalize. There you go.
We're gonna edit this part. No, right? But you do that, and you just kind of pack it away, and then you get married, and you start to realize like how emotionally, I don't know, unstable. Like I feel like when I first kind of got married, I first started to really deal with emotions. It was like people like always joke like, I never ever seen you cry, right? And so for me, it was like, yeah, you gotta like all that stuff, all those emotions and things you kind of pack away, and you kind of. But eventually, if you start to really face those things, counseling, things like that, you start to talk through some of that. Hearing like a counselor tell me like, hey man, you seeing that stuff as a kid, like that wasn't okay. Right? It wasn't like, it's okay to like say that like stuff messes with you something. So now I'm like, I look at things like when I'm parking my car at night, and my neighborhood's fairly safe, and I'm like, I'm walking home and I like anxiety, kind of something in the back of me thinking maybe that's gonna happen to me, or I don't wear like hoodies, right? And so, and my wife's always like, hey, she buys me like, she used to buy me hoodies when we first got married. But hey, you never wear, and for me, I'm like, I never want to give off the
impression
that I'm one of those dudes. I
Yeah.
want you to know I'm a corny dad basketball coach, youth pastor, right? Ain't nothing. I'm not trying to be tough anymore, right? And so, I think all of that is just the effects of just those things, and yeah. So, I'm still figuring out how to deal with some of that stuff now, right?
All right, and because you like dealt with a lot of that, I know you mentioned like joining the military. What were you at in your life to where it kind of like pushed you to join the military?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was kind of. It was a move of desperation. Realistically, like I had luckily graduated from high school, and then I enrolled at the local community college. I was playing basketball, and like for me, that was like my dreams and goals, right? I had no chance, but in my mind, like there was a chance, right? And so like first semester, I'm partying and chasing girls around and trying to be one of the cool athlete jock guys. All F's, 4 F's, failed everything. Went on academic probation, and then the second semester did the same exact thing, right? I was smart enough, I just didn't have the discipline,
yeah.
nor the skills, right? Often I think people say like about inner city kids, like, oh, he's just not able, she's just not able. Like often they're smart enough, they don't have some of the like functional skills to really discipline themselves, like be able to sit down for 3 hours and finish an assignment at the last minute. Even if like some people just can't do it, they just give up, right? So that was me. So I sat around dead-end jobs for the next couple years, I did all kinds of things, paving driveways to like temp agencies, and then I had actually got a good job at like GameStop. Long story short, I was stealing. I got fired, obviously, from that.
What game did you get busted? What game did you get busted stealing? You remember?
I literally, this is Xbox One and PS2.
Two, yeah.
No, Xbox and PS2.
No, it was Xbox and PlayStation 1, right? No, it was probably PlayStation 2. Yeah, PS2.
Yeah. And so I basically had everything from PS2 to Xbox down. Sega. I had every system, every game. I was wilding at this place. And I got caught, ended up having to go to court for it, all this good stuff. And I was just sitting around. I was going to court for stealing from this place, and I was like, bro.
The 5-finger discount is not good.
Oh, definitely not. Right? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you, like, you learned, right? You learned this lesson already in life. So it's like, what are you doing? Like, and I was just like, you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going up to the mall with the recruiter office, and I'm signing up for the Air Force. Because I was like, it's probably Coast Guard, because it's going to be the easiest in my mind. I had no idea. I show up, there's no Coast Guard office in that one. Was talking to the Air Force guy, and then the Army guy kind of comes out and was like, hey, why are you talking to my guy, man, blah, blah, blah. And then the Air Force dude's like, oh, I'm sorry, bro.
They're fighting over you, huh?
Yeah, the Air Force dude's like, oh, I'm sorry, bro. And he walks off, and then the Army guy's like, you like that, huh? Because I didn't even know the Army guy. He's like, yeah, they're a bunch of pansies.
Yeah.
You don't want to join the Air Force is cool, but that's just what he said. Went in, and then I signed up like that day. Signed all the papers. I didn't tell my family. Like I was living with my sister at the time. She found out because she seen like my backpack they gave me and the like pamphlets. And things. And so, yeah, it was just a move of like I need to do something, and the military is like actually the only option I have at this point. And so, it was a great decision though.
Nice. And well, I'm gonna backstep because I kind of want to go into what it was like for you being a teenager. And you mentioned that you kind of were in the streets.
Yeah.
So we could kind of just dive in to that a little bit more. Like, what was your breaking point? What got you into the streets and what got you out of the streets?
Yeah. And so for me, kind of getting in the streets, it was just a natural progression. It was like we were the little kids running around, playing tag, And then as we kind of grew and entered like teenage years, it was like we were next in line to take up the mantle in a sense when all these teenager older dudes got killed and went to jail. It was just it's natural.
It was a cycle.
It was just a cycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just flowed right into it. We were being groomed to kind of take over. So it was just this natural, like, hey, that was the next step. And then there was this like shooting in the neighbor Boston that I lived in, where like a 15-year-old kid got killed. And for a short time period, they kind of blamed my older sister for being a part of it, and she wasn't. It just was she was friends with the girl that kind of set this whole thing up, basically. Yeah. And so my family ended up having to like almost flee Boston to go live in a city called Brockton, which was like a worse, smaller version of Boston, in my point.
Was it the cops that are going after your sister, or is more the people retaliating?
No, yeah. So it was like the people in our neighborhood who we like grew up with, like kind of turned on my family for like a couple years, right? So we left and we were living in Brockton, and we kind of disconnected from everybody we grew up with in Boston. And eventually we started bumping into people, and they were like, "Oh, it's cool now," and we know your sister didn't have anything to do with it. And so I kind of reconnected with them years later, probably in high school. But yeah, so I'm in Brockton now. I'm entering the 8th grade, and this was like the kind of turning point. I got too big and strong for my mom, right? So she could no longer
contain you,
beat me up, discipline me, right? So my mom, she used to tear me up, right? But then once I grew, it was like, what can she tell me now? And so yeah, we were just running around in the streets, like looking to join gangs, things like that. I was actually kind of in the process of becoming a part of a gang, getting jumped in. This would be an interesting situation. So I had this friend, his name was Kevin, and he basically was gonna kind of vouch for me to kind of put me on to this gang, right? And so like me and him, we rocked like 8th grade and then some of our freshman year. And so we were like, I was pretty close to like any day this jumping type thing was gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And it was like my freshman year of high school. He basically was like, hey, we're gonna go, hey, there's a party this Friday, let's go to this party, all that good stuff. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I kind of at this point was doing whatever I wanted to do. Like my mom kind of lost control of me. And so we planned to go to this party, right? So Friday comes along, everyone in the school's like, hey, you guys ready? You guys gonna be there? And so we're pumped to go. And then I get home and my mom's like, she never ever did this. This is probably like one of maybe 2 times where she actually like put her foot down. Mm-hmm. She was like, yeah, I'm not gonna let you go to this party. And I'm like, why not? Like, what are you doing? You're tripping. Like, we argued. I was probably cursing her out. And then I was on juvenile probation at the time, and she basically was like, hey, I'm gonna call your probation officer and report you if you go. And she never threatened. I did what I want. I was like smoking weed, I was drinking. She knew it all, but I mean, and so I was just like, Brian, I'm not trying to get locked up, like, you know what I mean?
And you knew she was serious.
Yeah, she was serious. Like, she was serious. She's, I have a bad feeling. So anyways, Kevin kind of comes along. He's like, hey, bro, hey, you coming to the party? And I'm like, nah, Mom Dukes is tripping. She's being a beep, you know? He was like, all right, bro, I'll holler at you later. Dude goes to this party. Next morning, I get a phone call. He gets murdered on the way home from the party.
My God.
I knew it.
Right?
Mom's into
literally, he lived like the next street over. He got
crazy, bro.
Literally, I don't know, 200 feet from my house is where he got killed. Like, and me and him would have had to walk home together. There was a hole in the back of his fence that led to my street. So it was just like random like situation where I was just like, dang. Shortly after that, I basically ended up.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, man. So was this when he left your house? Like after he was like, hey, what's up, bro? Let's go to the party. You're like, no? Or was this after the party?
After the party. I was doing some reading on it. Like I used it in like a sermon I gave to the youth one time. I was using the story. So I looked up kind of some, like his death. I was trying to find a picture of him. And I found out there was some kind of confrontation at the party over a girl. He walked home. They followed him home, and they basically killed him.
How old was he at the time?
He was 15. I was 14, freshman year of high school.
And 100%, if you would have went to that party, you would have
Guaranteed.
definitely been walking with him.
I guarantee you, like 100%. So that for me is like, I reflect now. I'm like, man, God really had like a plan, right? Because I
Your
think,
mom, man, your mom.
but I think she got that from him. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
and she ain't even like a church person like that. I mean, she maybe goes a little bit now, but back in the day, she was wilding out in her own right? So it just was like, man, like where did she get that like intuition from?
Yeah. And how did that make you feel, bro? Like when that situation and you found out, like what? Man, bro,
right?
oh my God, bro. Like if one of my boys got smoked, like, man, I mean, like, you didn't go like, hey, who did this? Like, we're gonna get him. Like,
So we did, right? The crazy part, like, I guess the second part to that story is kind of crazy, right? Like, so we didn't know who did it, right? And so we're like, hey, all we know is there was this, like, he was a local, like, he was a tough guy in the neighborhood. This one dude, I'm not gonna say his name, right? But he was like the dude everyone feared. He kind of had the guns. He was selling drugs, and so I was like, you just kind of left him alone.
Yeah.
He was cool with us because we were like the young dudes, and we like he was like the OG in a sense.
yeah.
Of the neighborhood,
So he was
right?
a lot older than you guys.
Yeah. So he was probably like in his 20s. I mean,
Okay.
he's an OG and he's in his 20s,
Right?
right?
20 years old, he's an OG.
Right?
Hey, but you guys were your teenagers. He's already.
Yeah.
So I mean,
then,
back then, you know.
So the hood rumor was like, hey, this dude was the last one to see Kevin before Kevin got killed, right? And so for us, it was like, oh, he was the one who did it, right? Or maybe he was the one who did it. So of course, this group of us kind of got together, and there was a gun basically, and they're like, all right, hey, who's gonna smoke dude if he's the one? You know what I'm saying? And of course, my dumb butt, I'm only 14. I'm really emotionally broke up. I'm like, give
I'll
it to
do
me.
it. I'll do it.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna let him have it right?
Yeah.
And so we as a group, we walk over to this guy. I'm scared, right? Obviously.
Oh, I could only imagine, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not that tough of a guy, right?
Yeah.
I don't have the dark side. I don't have that like, all right, I can do this, you know? But I was willing to because I was like emotionally kind of distraught
Yeah.
at this point. This is literally just the next day.
it's a heat
We
of
walk around the corner to this guy lived fairly close to us, right? So we walk up on his porch and we're like, hey, what's up, man? Hey, what happened? Like, can you tell us a story, basically? And so I'm kind of like just, you know, standing on the side. I'm kind of looking for
An
the
opportunity.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm looking for the go ahead from
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the dude that was kind of like the one kind of leading our group. He was gonna kind of give me the nod for me to shoot this guy, right? And we're talking to him. He just kind of tells us a story like, basically the guy was walking down the street. Kevin was walking down the street. They kind of dapped each other up, said what's up, and he was like, see you later. He walks kind of down the street some, and it was dark. And he said he just seen a bunch of like gunshots going towards the ground. And he thought like Kevin was like playing with a gun or something like that. And so he was like, yeah, I woke up the next day and, you know what I mean, like found out like you guys. And so he actually didn't do it, right? That was the kind of thing, but the fact that like I'm sitting there like with this gun waiting to kind of take this dude out. Luckily, I didn't have to do anything. But that was like kind of like the residual effects of losing a friend. You go to the funeral. Of course, you're messed up about it, but it was kind of normal. It was like, and for us, it was like, maybe this is our reality. Like we're all gonna end up in the casket
Like
this
Kevin.
dude. Yeah. So, yeah.
And it's crazy because how many people make those mistakes, bro? How many people make those mistakes? They get so emotionally caught up in some sort of violent activity where they suspect another person's did it, and they don't even some people don't even think twice, bro. What saved you was your conscience.
Yeah.
Like if you were just stone cold, like you would have killed this guy.
Yeah.
And you would have killed the wrong person.
Yeah.
And went to prison for the rest of your life for the wrong thing.
And then,
you know?
then his family would have retaliated against him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that cycle.
And and it's crazy that like back then people would people would accept it, like, you know, maybe this is our life, maybe this is our, you know what I mean? But you always have opportunities to get out of there and do what you gotta do, but you gotta do it yourself sometimes. And it's crazy that people are just, no, this is it, and this is the route I'm gonna take,
Yeah.
and like you said, it's either jail or in a casket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a tough life to live, especially like constantly looking behind you,
Yeah.
like at all times. You know, it's
But yeah, man, that's honestly for me, like as I've grown and matured, I'm like, that's the big lie.
yeah,
The big lie is that those are the two paths, right? Like, and realistically, for a lot of us, if you just you hold on long enough, right? If you just persevere, and not everyone's situations are different. Some situations they're crazy, and like I'm a high school coach now, right? So I hear these stories and learn about these families, and I'm like, dang. But for me, it's like if that kid can just figure out how to get through whatever it is you're dealing with, like this life we all have, it's kind of on the other side of those things, and so yeah, don't believe the lie. Any young person that sees this, like there's a plan for you if you can just keep fighting. So,
And a lot of those situations, they're temporary.
Yeah.
We think they're permanent,
Yeah.
but it's temporary.
Yeah.
Because look, eventually people, they grow out of these neighborhoods. They
Yeah.
move, they
Yeah.
go somewhere else. So it's not like it's permanent,
Yeah.
you know? So that's one thing we always got to keep in mind, that pain or it's all temporary. Our happiness, it's just temporary, you know? So it's like we're constantly, it's a roller coaster that we're facing in life with our emotions, you know?
yeah, to like see how important like these like programs in all these communities are, you know what I mean, for kids, kids to
definitely.
go to, you know what I mean. It's definitely important. That's gonna help them get off the streets. You know, I wish there was a lot more, and I think, you know, me and MJ, I mean, we all can dive into that rabbit hole to bring out, like, do a research and see what programs there are in different cities and stuff like that, and maybe put it out there. You know, that'd be great for the community.
Yeah.
So then you talked about you went to jail. You went to juvie. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably, this is another one of those, as I'm older and I reflected over my life, like another like grace from God, right? Like it was like at the height, right? So Kevin got killed like October of my freshman year. This is like March.
So that we're let's time frame. So what, this is what, like 80 what?
No, this is 96.
Oh, 96. Okay.
96, freshman year high school. So actually, it's actually would be 97, March of 97. Skipping school, me and a bunch of friends at a bowling alley, smoking weed, being clowns. And this kid walks by that we used to bully in high school. We called him Dome because he had a big head.
Big old dome.
I got a big head. This dude had me
Shouldn't be
beat.
laughing, but
This dude had me beat, right? So everyone called this kid Dome, right? So Dome's walking by, and then everybody's like, oh, like, go bully him, basically. These idiots I'm hanging out with kind of talked me into. So, of course, I grabbed, one of my friends had a knife. I'm like, hey, let me see a knife. So I ran over to him. And this is a kid I could have just slapped around and took, right? But I pulled the knife out, and I'm like, give me your money. And, of course, he freaks out, starts crying, and runs off. I run back over, ha, 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 laughing, right? And I don't know, like 5 minutes later, we hear, like, sirens. And I'm like, everyone's like, yo, we should get out of here. I'm like, nah, that's the fire engine. Nah, it's not the police, you know? Like, bro, it's getting louder and closer. And then a few minutes later, police cars come, vroom, like flying in, they stop us all, search us all. And then they're asking this kid who did it, right? Who was the one that pulled the knife on you? Of course, he's scared. He looks at all of it, he said, he's not here, right? And so I'm like, yes, in my mind, I'm like, yes, right? Yeah. And so the cops are like, all right, you guys get out of here and go. So as we go to walk away, one of the guys threw the knife under a car. So the cop didn't find it when he originally searched us.
Yeah.
So like an idiot, this guy throws the knife under the car. Cop stops us, and he's like, oh, there's the knife right there, right? And so at that point, he's like, I'm taking all of you guys in unless the person kind of comes forward. So I owned up to it. I was like, yeah, it was me, right? So of course, they arrest me, so I get an armed robbery charge for that, which led me into juvie, and then basically it was like I took a plea for like as a nonviolent crime basically,
But you put a knife out. That's pretty
yeah.
violent, don't you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. But the fact that I didn't shank him.
Okay. I was like, not violent, homie.
So if I would have shanked the dude, I would have been in like big trouble, right? But so they basically, I don't know what they call it now. I got committed to like the Department of Youth Services till I was 18. I'm 14 or 15 at the time. Yeah, 14, 15. And so it's like basically I was on probation for like until I was 18, basically. And they basically locked me up. The crazy part is it was June 17th of, I plead guilty June 17th, 1997, right? And I go to this like open door residential program that was transformative. And then June 17th, 2004 was the day I left to go to basic training. Right?
Oh,
So
okay.
It's like June 17th date, like unintentionally has these like
important,
it's like
meaningful
my
days.
biggest
Timestamps.
mistake versus like it's like a timestamp for my biggest mistake, but probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. So
And like so like, but you said like when you went to juvie, how long did you do?
So it's basically like a year and a half total, right? So it's like I was in like the lockup portion for like maybe like 6 months, and then eventually I qualified for this like nonviolent like youth program that I actually ran away from and like escaped. But
Can you talk about that story? Because earlier when we were off camera, you mentioned a little mentor that kind of.
yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So it was like I was getting in fights. I was still trying to be a gangster, right? So I get to this place. I'm the new guy. I don't know anybody, and I'm fighting all the time. I got beat up a couple of times, but I just was struggling with authority. I just was angry at where I ended up in my life. So one night I was taking out the garbage. I was like, "You have like chores and stuff." I threw the garbage in the trash, and I just ran right through these woods, and I was only like 3 cities over from Brockton, basically, and I somehow got like to like a highway type thing, and I'm walking, police car pulls over, and I'm like, oh man, I'm done, you know what I'm saying? And the police officer, hey, where you going? I'm like, oh, I'm coming from a party, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, get in. He drives me. He drives me like 15 minutes to Brockton.
No way, bro.
I swear.
So he's pretty much like assisting a runaway.
He had no idea. It was a cop trying to
Do a good thing.
Yeah, do a good thing. So he takes me like down the street from my house. I'm like, oh, right here is good. I live right down the street. He drops me off. He asked me my name. I made up a bunch of lies and stuff. And so like for the next like week or so, 5 days to a week, I'm on the run basically. And it's like my probation officer is scouring my neighborhood. The police are looking for me a couple times. Like my mom, sorry to snitch on you. She like hid me in a closet, all kinds of stuff when they're like searching our house.
W, mom.
Yeah, definitely, right? But it just got to the point to where it was like it was getting too much, you know. And one of my younger sister's dads basically was like he would happen to be there one of the days that like they came, searched, they didn't find me, and then they left. And he was like, hey man, like I need to talk to you. You need to sit down. And I imagine he was, cause my mom is hood, right? So my mom is like, I'm gonna look out for my son for as long as I can. I think he probably talked some sense into her. So they sat me down, and then he was like, hey man, like, are you gonna do this for the rest of your life? Like, are you gonna run around, be running away from the police for the rest of your life? He's like, cause they're not gonna stop. So he's talking to me. I remember like crying, breaking down, cause I didn't want to go back. Like I hated the place. But then he convinced me to like, you know, just go finish. Cause I think they said like, hey, if he's not turned in by tomorrow, he's gonna lose his spot in this boys' home that he's at. And so, we called my probation officer. She came. They cuffed me and picked me up, took me back, and then I kind of went back with this new mentality of like, I just need to get through this, right? And so,
How much time did you have to go through? Like how much more left?
yeah, I think I probably had at this point I had about 8 or 9 months left in this program.
So yeah, a little bit. You had some time to go still.
Yeah. So it was like, but we went to school. There was sports. A lot of the staff there were like mentors and things like that. And so when I really like gave myself to like the structure and just all the counseling, really opening up and talking through things, I excelled and did really well. And like I remember graduating from that that kind of, you graduate from this program, and I like returned home. For me, I was like transformed, right? Like I was done with weed and all that good stuff. Like I was super committed to sports. I knew I had to graduate. So I kind of had goals, and I was like, yeah, I like cut off all the dudes in the neighborhood. Like I had no longer hung around the dudes I really grew up with. Like I would still say hi to them, what up? But it was never like, we're boys rocking every day like that. And then most of them were already in jail anyways, right? So even when I returned back to the neighborhood like a year later, it just like, it was like no one was around that I kind of grew up with, or if they were just getting out, etc. And so, yeah, it was definitely transformative. It kind of put me on a path of like, hey, like, do good in school, be committed to sports, stay away from the gang life and drugs and things like that, and you'll be all right.
Do you remember the dad's name?
So his name was Tommy.
Damn.
Yep.
So thank you, Tommy, man. Because imagine if it wasn't.
He passed away.
Oh, rest in
It's cool,
peace,
it's cool.
Tommy.
I'm pretty, yeah, but if his kids ever see this, I think they're pretty.
I mean, because if it wasn't for, like, Tommy saved your life in a sense. Yeah. Like it seems like God has put all these people at the most perfect, pivotal.
Yeah, totally.
Moments in your life, man.
I got a lot of little stories, which like these little like God used a lot of different people. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Because I mean, like I was telling you, sometimes like being like a fighter or whatever, like sometimes the coach needs to stop the fighter from damaging himself,
yeah, totally.
You know, and like and that guy Thomas, he stopped you from continuing this path.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's crazy though. That's crazy how just those little 5-minute pep talk or whatever. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Like, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. And also, like you said, like just kind of like letting go and really giving giving it a chance to like embrace what the program had to offer and the counseling and stuff like that. So and that's key right there.
Yeah. Go for it.
No, I'm just gonna say that I'm glad you guys changed your life around. We definitely would have been friends when we were younger.
No,
I was riding bikes and
I would have been stealing your bike.
Yeah, you would have stolen your bike.
All right, me and Don would have been on the same page. Where's this guy?
Yeah, no, because I have a similar story to you where my brother, something happened at our house, and they were looking for this ex-gang member that used to stay in the house, and they thought my brother, was him or whatever, right? And I got into some trouble with this guy. We went to go do some. Well, it was unintentional, and I had to take off, right? So I was like, I told my mom, "Hey, mom, this is what happened." Blah blah. It's like, all right, let's go. So like, we booked it, and so the cops were looking for me, and but unfortunately, they had my brother.
Yeah.
So they called. They're like, "Hey, we have your son. You need to bring your son back."
Yeah.
So like, my mom took me back, and yeah, man, I remember being in jail for like, I don't know, like it was like under a week, but I was in solitary, and that scared me straight, bro.
Yeah.
I think after that, I was like, I'm good. Like I don't know how these. I mean, I'm just not mentally that strong, I guess.
Dudes be doing years of that.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. And then, so I got busted, and they're like, "Hey, well, look, you seem like a good kid, whatever." It's kind of like you. It was like a boys' home or whatever, but this was like a military school, and same thing. It was structured, and I feel like we do well with structure.
Yeah.
Like if we don't have that structure, sometimes we wander off.
out.
Yeah, we. I mean, now I'm sure it's a lot different now. But do you still struggle with structure? Like if you don't have it, it kind of like you teeter off and do other things, or you think now you've dialed in with your structure?
I'm definitely like, I'm not one of those people, like a day off for me isn't like sitting at home and sleeping all day. Like a day off for me is like with people doing something, right? Like, and so, yeah, I still am I like to have like a routine. I like to know what's going on, right? Like often I'll come and I'll like work here by myself, right? Just because I can't work from home, even though like that's like a
Optional.
option for
Yeah.
me. But it's just for me. I just know like it drives me crazy.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm
So
the same
yeah,
way.
yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that like it needs structure in order to like not go insane, basically.
Yeah.